Welcome back. Let's continue our discussion on factoring. I think I've done a decent job explaining how to factor an equation into its two components, but some of you probably think maybe I could use a little more practice. So I got a couple more problems here before we move on to different types of problems on the concepts of factoring. So without further delay, let's get to it. So here, as always, x squared minus 5x minus 24 equals 0 is the given equation. We multiply these two terms, so we end up with negative 24x squared, right? So we want to multiply or add two terms. When we multiply, we should end up with negative 24, and when we add or subtract, whatever we do, we should end up with negative 5. That means there's two numbers would be negative 8x and plus 3x is equal to negative 5x, because negative 8x times 3x will give you negative 24x squared. It's very important that you figure out how many different ways you can get 24. Normally, you can get 24 more than one ways, but to also get 5x out of that process is going to be only one way. And so then you figure out whether the negative is with the larger number or with the smaller number, or it could be both positive or both negative. It simply depends on the problem. Okay, so that means we now substitute minus 8x plus 3x for minus 5x in the above expression, which would then give us x squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 24 equals 0. So if you take this portion of the equation and take x out, it's negative 8. And if you take 3 out in the equation, it's x minus 8 equals 0. And so we combine these two terms and the other term that's already inside the bracket, that's equal to 0. If these two terms are equal to 0, then each one is equal to 0. Then x equals negative 3 or plus 8. It's just that simple. Now, the question could technically stop here or here, depending on how it's phrased. So let's do one more along the same vein. So we have x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0, right? Now we want same negative 20x squared. What ways you could get negative 20x squared? At the same time, you could also get x. That would be, if you multiply 5x times minus 4x, you get negative 20x squared. This time you put the negative with the smaller number, because if we add these two, then we end up with a positive number. So it's 5x minus 4x equals plus x, right? So we now substitute plus x in the above expression as 5x minus 4x, which then results in x squared plus 5x minus 4x minus 20 equals 0. So if you do this and take the first half, if you take x as a common factor, leaves us with x plus 5. And if you take negative 4 out, that means there's already a negative inside, so it'll be plus 5 equals 0. If you combine x negative 4 times x plus 5 equals 0, so x can be plus 4 or negative 5. It's just that simple. Now, the exact place like this could be potentially troubling for some of you still. And the only way you can do this is just Google random problems on this topic, or I can give you more practice problems down the road, and just keep practicing. Okay, that's the best way to do it. Let's do one more problem in this video. All right, find the roots of the equation above. So here's the equation over x minus 3. Now it's best you write this equation as x squared minus 2x minus 3 over x minus 3. For some of you, just writing it the correct way could actually help alleviate the problem. So let's actually solve the numerator, because the denominator is rather simple. So we want negative 3x squared, right? That means we can only get one way, which is negative 3x times x equals negative 3x squared, right? That means negative 3x plus x equals negative 2x. So if we substitute this for negative 2x in the above expression, then we get x squared minus 3x plus x minus 3 equals, so okay, we don't need to do that. So that means x, if you take it out, you get x minus 3. Because there's none, you just put a 1. So now we combine this x plus 1 over x minus 3. We already have x minus 3 on the base, so they cancel out. If we equate this to 0, then x plus 1 equals 0, x equals negative 1. Again, the critical portion is this. I have a number, I have to multiply two numbers, but then I have to add or subtract or any combinations of those two numbers, and I should end up with the other number. So if you figure that out, then you can solve the problem. Now I can keep on going doing similar problems, but then eventually you have to watch the video over and over again, maybe one time for some of you, maybe twice for some of you, and eventually you will get it. I promise you will get it. Just keep watching the video, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video with more problems on factoring. All right, stay tuned.